Hi, I'm the Amateur Logician, and in this video we're going to look into the order of quantifiers. In predicate logic, the order of quantifiers does matter. We might say it is therefore non-commutative. Now, overlapping quantifiers can be a little bit tricky when you're first learning them, so here I'm going to try to break this down and show you two basic patterns. If you understand these two basic patterns, you'll be able to decode any proposition with two quantified variables. But funny enough, I find how pure math textbooks present this as a little bit easier to understand than a lot of philosophy logic textbooks. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to present this in two different ways. One of those ways is more mathematical, so to speak. That's actually going to be for the next video. But in this video, I'm going to try the tried and true example you find in a lot of philosophy logic textbooks, where you get something like someone loves someone, everyone is loved by someone, and so forth. So we have something like LXY, where L stands for loves. X and Y are variables. So we get something like X loves Y. Notice, moreover, that the domain is restricted to people. That's the universe of discourse. Therefore, X is a person and Y is a person. Now, there are two basic patterns, and these patterns will make more sense when we go through some examples, but the first one is just to notice the quantifiers. We have the all versus the sum. And the second pattern is to notice variable locations. And there's a difference between the active voice and the passive voice. Okay, what about the first one? That's the simplest one. So if you have something like, let's say, for all x, there exists a y such that Lxy. One thing we know for sure is that we're going to get something like, and remember the domain is restricted to people in this case, everyone ... someone. Because the universal quantifier is associated with everyone in this case, and the existential with someone. Likewise, if we have something like there exists a y such that for all x, Lxy, here we would get someone ... everyone. And that's simply because the first thing that appears is an existential quantifier, so that's someone, and then we have our universal one, so that's everyone. It's as simple as that. Also remember that there's a certain scope in terms of the variables, the quantified variables. So remember that if you have something like for all x, there exists a y such that Lxy, the scope of there exists a y is just Lxy. And the scope of for all x is simply all of that. In other words, there exists a y Lxy. That's just telling us how that applies. Okay, so let's go through some examples. And the second pattern will make more sense, I think, with some examples. So let's compare and contrast something like there exists an x such that there exists a y such that Lxy, and we'll contrast that with there exists a y such that there exists an x, Lxy. These are two different propositions. But one thing's for sure, we know because we have this existential quantifier and this existential quantifier, you're going to get something like someone ... someone. Whatever else it is going to be of that form. Okay, that's just the first pattern. So there exists an x such that there exists a y such that Lxy. So what this translates as is that someone loves someone. So we exist an x that corresponds with someone. There exists a y that corresponds to someone. We're saying that x loves y. So someone loves someone. And this has the so-called active voice. Let's compare this with a second example. And this will make more sense, I think. We have exist a y such that there exists an x such that Lxy. This is actually in the passive voice. Because we're going to get someone is loved by someone. Notice that the first variable quantified is y, but y appears in the second position to lxy. So it's on the receiving end. Y is on the receiving end of being loved. It's not doing the loving, it's receiving it because it's in this second position there. Whereas in the first example, this one here, notice that the first variable that's quantified is x, and that appears in the first position. So it is indeed active. It is actively doing the loving. Whereas in the second example, we have something that is passive because the first variable quantified is in the second position. That's the second pattern. So let's think about something like this then. For all x, there exists a y such that lxy, and we'll compare that with for all y, there exists an x such that lxy. So we know one thing for sure. For all x, everyone, there exists a y, someone. Moreover, the first variable that's quantified is x. It appears in the first position, so it's active. It's actively doing the loving. So therefore, we have everyone loves someone. How about the second example? For all y, there exists an x such that lxy. So for all y, everyone, there exists an x, someone. Notice that the first variable quantified is y. It appears in the second position. It's on the receiving end, so it's passive. So therefore we have everyone is loved by someone. Or let's try another example. So let's say we have something like for all x, for all y, lxy, and how about for all y, for all x, lxy. For all x, everyone. For all y, everyone. Moreover, notice that the first variable quantified is x. It appears in the first position, so it's active. It's actively doing something to y. X is doing something to y. It's active. And so we have everyone loves everyone. For this one, for all y, for all x, lxy, the first variable quantified is y, but y appears in the second position to lxy, so it's receiving. It's going to be in the passive voice. And thus we have everyone is loved by everyone. Okay, sorry about my handwriting there. Maybe I should try that again. Two more examples. Let's say we have there exists an x such that for all y, lxy, and there exists a y such that for all x, lxy. First quantified variable is x. It's existential. That corresponds to someone. For all y, that corresponds to everyone. The first variable quantified is x. It appears in the first position, is playing an active role here. And so we have someone loves everyone. Whereas the second example, we have there exists a y such that for all x, lxy, someone dot, 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 everyone. The first quantified variable is y. It appears in the second position to LXY. And so it's on the receiving end. We have the passive voice. Thus we have someone is loved by everyone. And so if you keep these two basic patterns in mind, you should be able to decode any proposition with two quantified variables. Notice the quantifiers and notice the variable locations. I hope this video has been helpful. Thank you for watching.